Hi guys, it's Thomas here from COTbase.com. Welcome to our weekly COT review. Today we're going to be analyzing the 44th COT report of 2021, and as we always do, we shall start off by looking at the largest changes in commercials positions. Now, before I jump to the review, a short reminder for those of you who are new to COT analysis, here at COTbase.com you'll find a lot of educational material to guide you through and explain what the COT report is all about. We show you very good examples, a bunch of charts. We also have some very useful tutorial videos as well that will explain to you how you can benefit from analyzing this wonderful report. And let's get back to the review. So the first market we're going to analyze is feeder cattle because it's on top of our list with a 48% change in commercials positions. Of course, this is based on a 52-week look back period. Now, that 48% is huge, I should say. You can, of course, see it visually here. We are, of course, looking at the red line, which represents commercials net positions. And you can see this recent change being much greater than average. I'd say the largest change that we had in the past 1 year. Now, what is this a great signal? I'll argue because I'd rather have a bullish COT change signal just after being in a decline territory. So those are the more significant bullish COT change signals. Now, we've already witnessed a bit of a rise. Nevertheless, this move in traders' positions suggests that we may easily see the continuation of rising prices in feeder cattle. Now, moving on to a 5-year chart, we get the chance to analyze the COT Extreme situation in this market. I should point out, if you look at the charts, which is interesting in these live stocks, it's not the first time I'm telling you this, but for those of you who are just joining, what's really amazing about the COT report and these COT charts is that although they are very similar to traditional technical indicators, the uniqueness comes from the fact that it is not derived from price. So this is a separate fundamental data represented in a technical format. And usually large speculators and small speculators are correlating significantly, but there are exceptions, and feeder cattle is one of those, because you can see there's actually a very significant correlation between commercials and small speculators. So one might ask, why is that? And the answer is simply there's a bunch of commercial participants in this market who do not reach those reporting limits that are required for commercial participants, so they're just underneath those levels, and they fall into the non-reportables category, who we specify as small speculators. That's something interesting I'd like to note for you. Now, this extreme situation that we have is more bullish. You may see good examples of these bullish COT extremes. We've been there for the past year, I should say. And it just simply supports further strengthening in this market, I should say. So, not a signal in itself, but the stress levels are such that we can expect this market to continue its rally. Currency for the next market will be the Brazilian real. Of course, a 1-year chart. Here we go. Let's start off with the 27% change that we have in commercials positions. Very large. We haven't seen such a change since June of this year, which was an opposite direction signal. It actually halted this rally a bit. Wasn't such an amazing signal, but maybe the one from May was a more better one. You can definitely count on these change signals to at least halt the move in which the market was headed. Now we are, of course, expecting strengthening in this market. Moving on to the 5-year chart, let's examine the extreme, and it's quite easy. You always look at the horizontal line. We are, of course, looking both at commercials and large speculators. Commercials first, large speculators. We are more or less in between the two extremes. What do I mean by two extremes? Well, here we have the most bullish extreme level in commercials, or you can see that in large speculators. And then, of course, the opposite is let's say back over here in 2017, and the level that we're at right now is more or less in between those two. So I'd simply move on. I don't really see anything interesting from the extreme analysis side, but maybe in the South African Rand we'll see something. So let's start off with the 1-year chart. The 27% is exactly the same change size as we just had in the Brazilian real. It is a much more I should say a more than average change size. Of course, that's why it's on the list on the top. And it is a bullish change signal. Again, coming maybe a little bit late for us. You can see that we already had a move. Now, I should point out that the time when this report is collected by CFTC and the time it is published, of course, there's a lag. So we get this report on Friday, but it is actually showing a data representing Tuesday, and that's Tuesday over there, just at that bottom. What an amazing example of how traders affect the market. So quite interesting. Let's move on to the 5-year chart, and you can see that again we are more or less in between the two major extremes. Not much to talk about here. Moving on to large speculator COT Extreme. There we go. We have an all-time COT Extreme. Of course, all-time meaning never in the COT history of Palladium have we had large speculators so net short. Okay, so they are net short, as you can see, and that is a very significant bullish COT Extreme. You can see back in 2018 they didn't even go down to short territory. They just touched the zero line over there and boom, the market went higher. Now they're even in a short territory. So very significant extreme over there. I should mention when we are, of course, talking about metals, it can be energies, anything else. You do want to have a look at other markets correlating with the market that you're analyzing at the moment. And of course, in this case, we're talking about metals. Before you jump into buying this market, you may want to look at other markets to see if those COT reports are confirming the signal that we are witnessing here. Mexican peso, another currency for the review, 244 report extreme in large speculators. And of course, this is an unquestionable bullish extreme. We've been having this extreme in the past couple of weeks. I'm always just repeating it's strong. It is strong, suggesting that the Mexican peso could further increase in value compared to the US dollar. And last but not least, another currency, the Japanese yen, with 159 report extreme in large speculators position. That puts the extreme to roughly something that we had back in January of 2018. So this is a bullish extreme, of course, that is coming at a good point in time. I would say it's easier or more clear to see than, let's say, Mexican peso, which actually has been pretty strong in the past 1 year, whereas the Japanese yen has actually lost value in this year. So this bullish extreme suggests that we may see some strengthening happening in this market. Now, of course, don't forget that here at cotbase.com, you can, of course, look at all the market categories. I'm just showing you a few. You can add grains, stock indexes, interest rates, and cryptocurrencies as well. You may also look at the newest CO2 report types. You can look at other data types. We're looking at the futures and options, but you might want to look at only the futures data. And by the way, I think we have managed to come up with a very simple way to find the options only data, which is very, very unique. Not many places have that. I think this is a very special way of analyzing markets. We have a lot of different data sets that you want to look at, dig deep into your analysis with our tools. And if you're somebody who's trading some specific markets, you can definitely dig into its COT data by choosing it in the left side panel, and then go and do your research on that market. And by the way, of course, you can always chart everything, which I think is a very, very handy tool to have that visual component. Now, I should mention that everything you have seen in this video online, the cotbase.com website, you can actually access through our COTBase Pro indicator in your NinjaTrader platform. If we're already here, I'd like to mention to you the COTBase ICOT Intraday indicator, which is available for 3 platforms. This is something very, very unique that we've worked so much to create, because we reverse engineered COT data and created our unique intraday indicator. Of course, everybody knows that the COT data is a weekly data, and we always wanted to achieve something in the micro level. And as you can see, for instance, in this chart, We're looking at gold on a 1 minute candlestick chart, and still you see the COT charts underneath. Of course, this is not data from the Commodity Futures Trading Commissions, but our own data. But we have found that it is actually very, very useful for shorter term trades, and really maybe constructing how you'd like to enter a specific trade. And of course, we've got some very, very useful videos as well. So thank you so much for being with me in this recent review. I appreciate your attention, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope to see you in my next COT review. Take care. Goodbye.